Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Season 2 is an improvement over the first season in almost every way. It has inventive chase scenes, better animation, and more interesting mysteries. All this despite releasing a scant 8 months after the first season. Ultimately, it's still the same show, with the basic plot structure remaining identical, and the same cast and crew returning, with the exception of Daphne's voice actor, Stefaniana Christopherson, but now Heather North, who would go on to voice the character for more than 30 years. The biggest change for the second season is the larger emphasis on chase scenes, and this time set to music. While the first season had a fair share, they were more generic, and not the kind the show would be known for. This season has the infamous Doors sequence, which would become an iconic element of the series, as well as more and more ridiculous set pieces, including a car chase through a building, a horse race, and turning a spinning wheel into a bicycle. And all except a single episode is set to Bubblegum Pop from the La La Productions, who would also record a new version of the theme song. Likely due to the shortened production time, the season only consists of 8 episodes compared with the 17 in the first season. While not every episode is amazing, there's a notable improvement in quality, meaning that although there are lower and higher points, overall the season is very solid. This is especially true in the first few episodes, which serve to highlight the improvements over the previous season. The premiere was Nowhere to Hide, featuring the ghost of Mr. Hyde. He's a jewel thief, and has a ghastly green appearance. In the malt shop we see an actual employee working there, one of the major changes to the animation. There was a concerted effort to have more background characters, and to fill out the world, which is no longer a ghost town, as it appears the war has ended. There are also more transition scenes, whereas before to get from place to place there would be a simple dissolve. Now the characters are shown moving around, which gives more connection between locations, and makes the whole show feel more cohesive. Even the humor has seen an improvement, with a bit more variety to the jokes. There's some dramatic irony, with Velma talking about the blob waiting in the back of the car, stalking victims, while the villain from the episode does exactly that. There's an odd choice here with the monster. The gang stumble upon a scientist in an old abandoned house, and he claims to be the great-grandson of Dr. Jackal, and is transforming into the ghost of Mr. Hyde due to a potion. I'm not sure how you transform into a ghost, then back, but the story's all bull anyway, so the details aren't that important. There's a decent mystery here, with a red herring that adds a bit of color to the episode, and clues that are a little bit less out of nowhere than usual. Then, near the end of the episode is the first chase of the season, and it's a great one, stretching a variety of locales and obstacles, as well as some decent comedy bits. Even the eventual plan is enjoyable to watch play out, and actually uses things previously established. It's a great way to start the season, and is one of the best episodes of the show. Next is Mystery Masks Mix-Up. This features a new locale for the gang. Rather than a generic location, it's clearly in Chinatown in San Francisco. They attend a parade, and there are a huge number of background figures, although they might be made of wax as none of them appear to breathe. Still, it's an attempt to make the setting feel more alive. Next they go through the beginnings of a mystery, as Daphne buys a golden mask, a possible hint at her wealth, which would later be a defining characteristic. In this episode, Scooby speaks Chinese, and Velma claims to read it, which are fun bits of trivia. This episode has an early chase scene, and it's a wild one. The gang tries to get away from the scare pair, and with both driving cars it results in a high-speed pursuit, including the mystery machine traveling through a building, up some stairs, before careening out a window. The scene ends because the van slips on a banana peel and slides into a pile of fish. It's slapstick humor taken to the extreme, and it's joyous to watch. The Toon Physics style continues later, when Shaggy rides Scooby like a motorcycle. Now, given the setting, it was expected there would be a costume bit where Shaggy and Scooby dress up, and Shaggy does put on an accent. It's an unfortunate relic of the times, but it doesn't make it any less racist. It's not quite Breakfast at Tiffany's, but it's close. There's a bit of conflict about which episode is next, as the production order and the airing order were different. But we'll go with Scooby's Night with the Frozen Fright. This episode is one of the less notable ones. It's got a few decent gags, as well as not a bad mystery which can be predicted, but there's nothing that hugely stands out. A moment that's more amusing in hindsight is the scientist offering a "must have been the wind" to Scooby clearly lying on the dock, just like a video game guard. Next is Jeepers, It's the Creeper, a reference to Jeepers Creepers which came out in 1938. Again, this one tries to make the world seem less empty, with the school dance and other members of the gang's class dancing, with some strong Snoopy energy. The Creeper is one of the most iconic villains from the series, although, aside from having a solid design, there's not a huge reason behind this. He's one of half a dozen different zombie variants, and his only line is Creeper, although they claim he's saying paper. He's featured in the second live-action film, Mystery Incorporated, Cyber Chase, and Scooby-Doo and Guess Who. The world's first computer virus was even named after him in 1971, the year after the episode aired. He certainly got around, and the episode is generally a solid one, with, again, a very nice chase scene involving horses and a wagon. Haunted House Hang-Up is next, beginning with the gang hotboxing the van in front of another creepy mansion. They investigate it as miscellaneous goings-on happen, and then a headless non-horseman shows up to scare them off. This time there's a bicycle chase, as well as a later balloon chase, so they still haven't run out of ideas for vehicles. At the end of the episode, it turns out there were two people after the money in the house, as that's what all of these mysteries are still about, and they find it by accident. Despite being offered a share, the gang declines, again showing they're the anti-capitalist hippies who don't have a need for money. The gang takes a trip to Hawaii, and a tiki scare is no fare, and for some reason bring the mystery machine with them. The villain here is a mysterious witch doctor, which is surprisingly not the first they've encountered, as the Dog Napper episode in Season 1 also featured one. This episode is fairly standard, with the most notable thing being the scale of Monotiki Tia, the statue that comes to life to scare them off. It's definitely an attempt to have things be more grandiose, but ultimately it's still a case of been there, seen that, and it all falls a bit flat. Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf is one of the more low-stakes episodes. It's about a sheep smuggling operation. They aren't particularly impressive sheep or anything, just regular old animals. Still, they came up with the idea of a zombie or ghost werewolf to scare people away from the operation. Regardless, it's the second werewolf the gang have encountered, although the last was a group of 3 villains, and was more purple than green. One of the more notable aspects of the episode is that in one of Shaggy and Scooby's attempts to evade the monster, they give him a haircut, and this actually stays consistent for the rest of the episode. A shocking sight given how many animation glitches there are in other moments. Well, in one shot of the back of his head he clearly has hair, but they get it right most of the time. Don't Fool the Phantom would be the series finale for 8 years, and it could be argued it's the final proper episode. The 3rd season was a rebranded set of episodes from Scooby's All-Star Laugh Olympics. It used all the original credits and themes, but given the 3 different shows in between them, it's odd to count it as the same series. This episode is a solid ending, with a believable red herring, and a decent design for the monster in the form of a wax phantom. Due to the location of the wax museum, they're also able to add a lot of different designs in the background, which is always fun. The chase scene is back to being a basic running away, but there are a few Looney Tune gags and different environments that give it a unique flair, and Mr. Grisby, the creator of the wax objects, is a great creepy character. Ultimately, I wish they'd done more with the wax characters, having multiple villains, but it's still a solid send-off. Season 2 is a marked improvement on Season 1, especially in its chase scenes, which are a visual delight. It still has some of the same problems, and the mysteries tend to repeat themselves, but the comedy more than makes up for it. In every video from now, I'm going to place the bit of media in a tier list, from A to F, and Season 2 fits solidly in B tier. Season 1 is more like C, being the definition of an average Scooby-Doo show. And finally, all the way at F, is Velma. We'll see if any other shows join it. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you, and have a nice day.